This episode of Video Game Book Club is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to support the Boss Rush Network and our family of podcasts, head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/BossRushNetwork. Thanks for your continued support. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Boss Rush Video Game Book Club, the Boss Rush podcast, Spoilercast, and review discussion show. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Dirrig, and alongside me, as always, is the mad pharmacist herself, Stephanie Klimov.
Hello. Don't make me upset, or I'll throw a bunch of bombs at you.
Ooh. I'll bring a puppet to life by, I don't know,
Sprinkle a little bit of stardust.
Yeah. Speaking of stardust, also here is PK Power, Pat Klein.
That's right. If you make me angry, I'm probably just going to cry and cause a storm.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. Don't let your emotions control your gameplay, Pat. It's very, I don't know. How's everyone doing? Everybody doing all right on this, what's today, Friday evening?
Friday. Yes, the date of recording. It's a Friday, and I'm so psyched about it.
I'm so excited because tomorrow's the first day I won't have recorded in like almost 2 weeks.
So you think?
Wow. Well, we recorded a bunch of episodes ahead. Ed and I, a bunch of expansion passes and episodes of PAL Block because I'm going to be gone on vacation. So we did that. So, you know, it'll be fine. I guess I'm taking a week off, so I should need to shove those recordings in somewhere, I guess. So
I know where you can shove those recordings.
Hey.
In my Nintendo Switch cartridge slot, because we're about to talk about a Nintendo Switch game.
Nice.
Is this our... No, because we did Zelda. I was going to ask if this was our first Switch game, but it's not. It's our second, technically, I guess, depending on where you played Oxenfree 2. We are talking about Super Mario RPG, the remake of the Super Nintendo classic from Square Enix and Nintendo. This game, I had a lot of thoughts at the beginning, and they changed over time. I don't know how your guys' thoughts were of this game. I guess we can go into spoiler-free thoughts real quick, like we always do. And then we will give you all a fair warning to get out if you haven't played it yet. Although there's not really much to spoil in this game, except, you know, whatever. But Stephanie, I'm going your way first. Do you have any experience with the original?
So I will be the participant that has no experience with the original.
I don't either, if it makes you feel better.
Okay, yeah. So I've come into it with a perspective. Obviously, I knew that it came out way back in the day, and that it got a little clean up, a tune up. So overall, it was fine, and I feel a little bad saying fine because I don't think there's anything fundamentally wrong with it, and the fact that I have to keep reminding myself what can someone remind me what year it initially came out? But
96. It came out the same year as the N64, I think.
Okay.
Let me look that up to make sure.
Right. If it is, I would be around 8 years old at the time. Actually, my son's age. I bet you if I played Super Mario RPG at that time, it would have been one of the greatest games I've ever played.
Mm-hmm.
So putting that into context, currently playing it, and I'm only kind of imagining what Nintendo has done to clean it up. I think the graphics look well for a game that has taken place so long ago. The mechanics are very simple, but they're functional and they're fine. They work. And I do appreciate that little extra bit more where you have to hit A when you land your attack or when you get hit to kind of better your gameplay. I appreciated the additional funky characters that are not traditional Nintendo characters. A little weird. I think the thing that I liked about it the most was the sense of humor the game had. And for me, that's like my favorite part of it. That's kind of the saving grace. Just I giggled quite a lot with their jokes. But I'll admit, as I kept playing, I did find myself kind of getting a little bit bored here and there because themes seemed a little repetitive, but I don't know if it's just the fact that it's been a while since I played an RPG, and sometimes basic RPGs can feel repetitive. So, I mean, overall, I'm grateful that Nintendo remade it's not technically considered. Is it considered a remake or
It
is it
is a
considered
remake.
It is a
remake?
remake. Yeah.
I appreciate it. I feel like it is a Nintendo classic that, first of all, people who grew up with it can feel all nostalgia for. And kind of adding a second layer, Mario's getting the second win to the younger generation through the Mario Brothers movie. There's all these Mario games that are coming out now. Not that Mario's not been regularly released, but I'm just seeing Mario games even at twice the cadences before. We've got Luigi's Mansion 2 remake coming out, the Princess Peach game, Mario Wonder. I can go on and on. So the fact that they slid this one in here and gave an old game a new coat of paint, I actually do think, I appreciate and I'm happy that they did it. Not my favorite RPG, but I can say that I played it. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah. So I never had a Super I got a Super Nintendo after Nintendo 64 came out. So like I only have experience. Again, my friends had Super Nintendos and I would play over there, right? Like we would play Mario Kart and Donkey Kong and Super Mario World and all that kind of stuff. But like the games that people consider classics, right? Like Final Fantasy 2/4 and 3/6, right? Like Final Fantasy 4 and 6, Chrono Trigger, Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past, Super Metroid, like those games I don't have any type of relationship with, right? And that would include Super Mario RPG. I have no relationship with really anything on the Super Nintendo. And so, this was always a game that people always held to high esteem on the Super Nintendo. And I thought, maybe I should try to play it. I tried to play it once or twice on stuff like Virtual Console and, those types of services. And I really tried a couple times and I just never stuck with it. And so I think Video Game Book Club was a good way for me to finally stick with it and try to play a game that has been on my backlog for close to 30 years at this point. And it was nice to play a refreshed version of it. I can see at the time why people would like it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Pokemon in a way of like baby's first RPG. It really teaches you like this is what heals you. This is what resistances are. This is what, causes critical damage to certain enemies. The difference between MP and HP and power points and stuff. Like it does a nice job of that. But at 30, how old am I? 37 now. Like I've played a lot of RPGs, played a lot of JRPGs, action RPGs, strategy RPGs that have evolved so much over time that even though I know what this game is supposed to be is, that simple RPG that teaches you things, it's like, this is really simple. It's charming. Graphically looks amazing, especially on the OLED. Like the colors really pop. I played the whole thing in handheld mode.
Yep.
The characters are interesting. I think Gino is. I know a lot of people love Gino. I'm struggling to figure that out, but also like this was also at a time Pat and I were talking before we were recording. Like, this was at a time where stories were simple and mechanics were simple, and
right.
Even though this was even more simple than something like Final Fantasy 6 at the time, like it's still Square, and the characters, people love the characters that they grew up with, and so I can see why someone like Gino would be attractive, right? Like this Pinocchio type character that like has a destiny to him, right? And so I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. I probably won't play it again, but I'm glad I played it. It's like, just because like I said earlier, it's been on my backlog for almost 30 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And so 26, 27 years, 28 years. So the fact that I finally knocked that kind of big check mark off, it feels good. So Pat, what about you?
Mm-hmm.
I assume you played the original.
That's right. I did own the original way back in the day. And I gotta say, playing this one versus playing the original is literally like getting a pair of glasses. The original was so fuzzy looking, and then this one's just so clean. Like the characters themselves in the original, they kind of look like wooden blocks, but like more wooden than what Gino looks like in the remake. But in this one, they're definitely clearer and smoother. And I will say, it was a nice little nostalgia trip because I played through this game several times. I remember the cutscenes. I remember Booster was probably one of my favorite like new characters that this game introduced. This game introduced a talking Bowser, like they gave Bowser a personality, something none of the other video games did. So this is kind of where you see his hints of him possibly liking Princess Peach, although I think she was Toadstool back in those days. And it was a really fun game. But I will say the remake, definitely, I'm glad it was short because this is a very simple game, as everyone else said. Like this, I almost feel like they made this game way more easier than the original game. Mostly with additions to the combat, such as when you push the button correctly, there's sometimes splash damage that hits other bad guys. That definitely was not in the original one. I think they also hit a lot harder, and I think those bonus flowers that you ended up getting were they didn't show up quite as often as they did in the remake.
Well, it's helpful to know the differences.
Also, we did not have the triple attacks in the original one, so that is something brand new to, I guess, spice up the combat just a little bit. And I do appreciate that they kind of had different attacks for depending on who you had all on your team.
Yes, I appreciated every 40 battles I was able to do one.
Yep. Again, that meter also went up very fast, so you didn't really have to worry too much about having to use it, or like use it during specific times. I am very curious though why they dropped the full title of this game. Like originally, the game was called Super Mario RPG: The Legend of the Seven Stars, and it's just Super Mario RPG now.
Maybe it's just easier to fit on the box, and I don't know. Maybe like people just know Super Mario RPG and nobody ever said Legend of the Seven Stars, and they're like, why are we gonna waste that box real estate? When we could fit all these chonky characters on here.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it kind of lost a bit of the plot because of that. Like the stars did not feel as important in this game. Like they just kind of felt like a MacGuffin that you occasionally ran into.
Because the box didn't tell you.
Yeah, because the box did not tell you that, hey, this game is all about trying to get the 7 stars. So, but overall, like I enjoyed it. I, got to play some of the side quests, some of the more memorable side quests, which we'll go over when we talk more into deeper detail. But yeah,
nice.
A good remake. Average gameplay at best. Like it definitely is my first RPG material. Something you could easily bring a kid into.
Mhm.
Funny you mentioned that because based off of what Corey said and what you just said, my son started watching me play it while I was getting ready for book club. And little by little, he's like, I want to pick your special attack. And then he's like, can I fight an enemy? And Minecraft distractions aside, once I beat the game, he's like, can I play the game? We popped it in and he started playing it. And he got pretty far again until he got distracted by Minecraft. So
Mhm.
like, I very rarely am that type of person be like, "Oh, this video game is for kids." Like, because I resent that because the video games are for adults too. But I do feel like with the level of easiness and the basics, I think that's perfect for him. He loves it.
Yeah, no, it's plus there's not a whole lot of reading that you have to, or there's not a whole lot of reading, because Mario doesn't talk, and like the story is a very simple story. There's not any major twists or like plot points that honestly you could probably just, because the game is so linear, you could probably just not even know what the heck you're doing and just beat the game, to be honest. Also, I will say the addition of the cutscenes was very nice. Like that was something that I enjoyed immensely, is seeing some of the more traditional like scenes getting played with the 3D animation, as well as like the introduction to these bosses. Also kind of getting a 3D animated trailer before you jump into the fight. It's just kind of cool. A neat little, I guess, bonus, if you will.
Nice.
If you want to see how you can become a Patreon producer, head on over to patreon.com/BossRushNetwork. The Patreon producers for this month are Adriel Munger, Celeste Roberts, Christian S., Sana Dirrig, Francisco Santillan, and Todd Oxtra. Thanks for your continued support of the Boss Rush Network and our family of podcasts. Yeah, so overall, I am glad I played it though, because, and then we'll get into spoilers after this
Spoilers.
Spoilers. I'm glad I played it because there are a few JRPGs that I've been wanting to play for a long time, and this game did get me back into being used to a turn-based game.
It's a gateway drug.
Well, we've been talking a lot about Final Fantasy VII recently because of the upcoming Rebirth release, and I've also never played the original Final Fantasy VII or anything Final Fantasy related, to be honest. Final Fantasy VII related, I should say. So I'm glad I played this because I actually have downloaded Final Fantasy VII, the original, on my Switch. And we may be doing something big with Final Fantasy VII over the summer. We are kind of in the midst of talking about that. I'm not 100% sure what we're doing yet, but as someone who never played the original, this game got me used to RPG mechanics again, to the point where I'm excited to play some JRPGs again. Because when I was growing up, stuff like Final Fantasy 8 and 9 were some of my favorite games. And, the PS2 era, I really got into JRPGs for a while. And then action RPG, like moving from like Final Fantasy 10 and 12 to like Kingdom Hearts and more of an action RPG oriented gamer. So yeah, this game got me excited to play some turn-based games again. I will say that. But we're going to move into some spoilers. Pat, I'm going to lean on you for the story, because this is the story was so light that sometimes I found myself tuning out when I wasn't meaning to tune out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would like meet somebody and I was like reading. I'm like, oh, right. Story points. I should probably not fly through this dialogue tree.
Well, it's okay if you blinked, because honestly, the story points really did not change from the initial beginning.
Yeah. So essentially, this sword character and this metal character, what's it, Smitty, right?
Smithy.
Smithy.
Yeah. I wanted to call him. I called him Smitty the whole time until the final battle, where I said, "Oh, there's clearly an H in this character's name. His name is Smithy, but I would rather call him Smitty because it's funny." So this character has kind of taken over Bowser's castle, and Bowser's Keep is what it's called in this game. And the whole thing is you kind of like, there's 3 kind of major stories in this game, right? Where you have to get Bowser's Keep back to Bowser so he can go back to being Bowser. There's Malo's story, who finds out, he's not really a tadpole and he's something else. Shocker. I was so confused at that point because I didn't know. And I'm like, I got to like the tadpole pond and I'm like, these tadpoles are like, they're tadpoles. They don't look like marshmallows. What's going on here? And then like I met the Frog King guy or whatever, and he's like, Malo, I have something to tell you. You are not a tadpole. And I'm like, oh, good. I was like, it's not just me. Okay.
And then it was like a big old shock moment, and all the tadpoles were like,
yeah.
Hey, I admittedly was shocked only because, we see a lot of weird looking characters in the game. So when Malo said he was a tadpole, I'm like, sure, that was Nintendo's and Square Enix's version of a tadpole. Okay.
No. Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, oh, okay, you don't look like a tadpole, but maybe there's a tail in your pants. I don't know what's going on here.
Dang.
Sure. I mean, like you said, Stephanie, there's a lot of weird characters in this game, but there's just a lot of weird Square Enix / Nintendo characters in general across the pantheon of video games, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, come on, one of the guys and one of the enemies in Mario is a turtle wizard with giant glasses, right? And with a magic wand that just shoots you, right? So I don't know. I was like, sure, you can be a tadpole. And then the third kind of story is the story revolving around Geno, which I think that's the story a lot of people attach themselves to when they think of this game.
That was the main story. That was the Legend of the 7 Stars.
Yeah.
Therefore, you cut that out. You cut the whole story.
Yeah.
Because now you just think it's Mario's game.
It is Mario's game. That's kind of the story that I was like, okay, this is the one I'm probably going to pay attention to the most. Geno kind of is this Pinocchio type character that comes to life, and you go on this mission to find the 7 stars. And what is he? The magic of the blue star magic is what it's called, I think, right? That brings him to life.
No, he's just kind of a star guardian. His job is to get everything back together, and make sure
he or she, they're just like, hey, look, a wooden doll. I'm going to borrow its body.
Because it was clearly the strongest looking doll out of the batch.
Which, by the way, this is not Geno's fault by any means, but I think part of the reason why I barely played him is because I have a fear of like marionette dolls and wooden dolls and creepy dolls, partially because of like movies like Chucky and
that's fair.
Other horror movies that have to do with dolls. So when I saw him, like, I know you're a good guy and I know you're meant to be sweet and adorable, but I'm going to put you away.
Yeah. I actually used Geno the entire time. I never took Geno out of my party. Mario has to stay in your party for some reason. Mario, oh my God, Mario's the worst. Like he's always supposed to be the all-around character, right? And he's never good at anything. Like he's never good at the thing you need him to be good at that time. He's just okay at everything. And so like he felt like a handicap the whole time. And I was just like, I'm pumping every single time you level up. Mm-hmm. I'm pumping it into attack, power, and defense because you suck at everything. You're just going to suck a lot less at this stuff.
May I ask, or should we save this for later? When it comes to leveling up,
there's a strategy.
Okay, because I just kind of picked, and I didn't
Mhm.
feel like it made a difference in my experience. So tell me of the strategy.
All right. If you check all three of them, there will be at least one of those three that's going to have more points added than the other ones.
Mhm.
So, like, you could check maybe the attack one may have a point, like, add a point to, attack. But then, like, you check your magic and you realize it's adding 2 or 3 points to magic. You usually go for the one that's going to get you the most benefit. But you had to quickly check all three of them to see which one actually had the more than 1 point added.
Do you feel like if people didn't follow that strategy, it would have made a huge difference?
No.
Yeah.
No. Honestly, that's also another thing is that, if you want to make Malo a tank, go for it,
Mm-hmm.
If you want to make Mario his specific to his magic attack, you can do that too. So
I kind of just I didn't really like I found myself at one point just going to the forest maze and just grinding away, because there's this one point where a bunch of wigglers just come out of all these pipes and they would just run into me and I would just stand in the middle and fight them. And I like leveled up and I was super over leveled by the time like I was done doing it, because I spent a whole night probably leveling my characters, probably 3 hours at one night.
Dang.
Just I'm like, I'm just gonna stand here. I'm gonna do the South Park Warcraft thing and just stand in the forest and level up by killing all these enemies. And so I ended up becoming over leveled throughout the entire game until probably Bowser's Keep, to the very last dungeon. And then I felt like, okay, I'm kind of on par / maybe a little underpowered. But at that point I had leveled Peach up so much in her her magic power that like I swapped Bowser out for Peach in Bowser's Keep, and I would just, my attack power was so high with Gino and Mario that I just kept attacking with them and healing with Peach, and I had zero issues.
yeah, that
what's
Peach's healing
sorry.
spell was OP. Like the
Yeah.
fact
It was
that
OP.
it could literally heal every single one of your characters in one turn to almost their like full health. You didn't have to worry about ever dying in that game.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was like half health because I was so overpowered when I got there.
Well, you still got
My
pushed the
HP was
button,
like,
dude.
what, for group hug?
Yeah.
I was pressing A. It would still only do like maybe 2/3 at max. My HP was in like the 300s. That's how overpowered I was.
You should have experimented with Bowser and Bowser's Keep, though, because when I had Bowser in my party, a lot of the times the opponents would run away.
Yeah, I did that for the 6-door challenge. I had Bowser in there because a lot of like the Goombas and the Koopa Troopas would run away. Only the bigger enemies would stick around. By the way, speaking of bigger enemies, my favorite enemy was like the fat Koopa Troopa.
Yep.
The chunky Troopa or whatever it was called.
Yep.
He was my favorite. I need like, man, there should be merch for this, because that should be like one of those kids squishmallows or pillow pets or whatever, and just be the fat Koopa Troopa. Oh, that'd be so good.
Yeah.
This game also introduced the fat Yoshi.
Yeah.
You had to do something to get the fat Yoshi.
Yeah.
But
also Giant Birdo.
Yeah. Was this the first time Birdo was introduced?
Nope.
No.
Birdo was Super Mario 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so Bowser's Keep was fun. Bowser's Keep was like the most interesting level, I feel like. Because of all the different, well, they had like just the variety of things that were available in Bowser's Keep kept me interested. And that's when I was like really getting into the game, and then it was over because it's the last level, So I started enjoying the game the more I played, right? The beginning is it starts real slow, right? And then you do all these like weird mini games, like the waterfall mini game, right? And then the minecart, Donkey Kong minecart level was fun, but I'm like, okay, let's move along. And then you had to chase the one dude up the hill, right, and jump on the barrels and the Shy Guys, right? I'm just like, I don't want to do this. I'm playing an RPG. I don't want to like do this part, you know?
I did feel like the latter half of the game was a bit more interesting for me, especially like you said with the level or areas. In addition to Bowser's Keep, there was, Booster's Castle or Booster's Tower. My favorite was the one that was underwater with the sunken ship. That was hilarious, and the talking shark gangster pirate boss was awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really liked Booster's Tower. Like, for me, that is the coolest level in that entire game because of all the Easter eggs that you can find in it.
Ooh, share some Easter eggs because it might have went over my head.
There was one room that was like a small staircase, but then there was like a curtain on each side of the pillar. If you go behind the curtains and come out, you're all of a sudden 8-bit Mario.
Mm-hmm. And it plays the music.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I saw Link sleeping in a bed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I missed it. No.
Yeah, he's in one of the hotel rooms, but you have to pay for the night to sleep there.
Well, yeah, you have to pay the night, but...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Samus is also sleeping in Princess Peach's castle later on.
Who is?
Samus.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then the suite when you are at the place where he's trying to marry Peach, and like the hotel suite there is really funny because you can like take a shower and Mario comes out and he's like beat red. And at first I thought that was part of a puzzle, so I spent like 120 coins there trying to solve, like, because like I didn't know the door. I didn't talk to all the toads in the town, so I didn't know you had to walk around the side of the castle and go in the back way into the castle. And then like I wasn't paying attention to the Shy Guy who was just running into the door, so I didn't know you had to like walk up to the door at the same time he was, trying to run into it. And so I thought like maybe if I take a shower and come out beat red, I can scare the Shy Guy away and he'll drop a key or something. And it was bad. And then I finally had to look it up. It was just like walk into the door at the same time he runs into it. I'm like, oh, that's okay. I overthought that by a lot.
Yes, you did. Now, there are also some other fun Easter eggs in this game. You could see the various F-Zero ships in some of the hotels, as well as the Final Fantasy VI Magitech armor in Booster's Castle was sitting right on the front desk.
Yeah. Also, there's an R-Wing sitting in one of the rooms. Like,
jeez.
There's like, yeah, like a Star Fox R-Wing is in one of the rooms too. I noticed.
Oh, wait, I think I saw that one and I maybe didn't click right away. I'm like, why is that here? Now it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And of course, for those who really put in, who really want to fight the super optional boss, there is a Final Fantasy themed boss that you can unlock in the Monster Town, where you fight this creature called the Krulix, and he was sent from a distant world to kind of, I don't know. They don't really explain. He's just kind of there to just kind of see what's out there. And you have to fight him and 4 crystals. And what's cool is that this game actually modifies the battle so that his text is like, wait a minute, you guys are 3D. What is, because he's a pixelated bad guy, based on the old Super Nintendo Final Fantasy. So he's like, I wonder if this 3D gives you like more power and stuff. So let's fight and find out. And while I did not play the endgame content to this, there is a boss rush mode where if you get back to Krulix again, he is actually 3D when you fight him.
That's a neat touch.
Yep. But when you're fighting him, his theme song is the final boss theme song for Final Fantasy IV. So it's pretty cool to hear that one being played as well. It's just Square kind of leaving their mark in the game.
I like that. I really do. I wish I had the wherewithal to, notice it and appreciate it at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I really, I've really been thinking a lot about those Super Nintendo Final Fantasy games lately, specifically 4 and 6. Like, those are two massive holes in my gaming. But like, I'm debating on whether or not to buy the entire collection. But like,
Honestly,
theoretically, I would love to play 1 through 6. But I know I'm not going to play them all. Like, I know in my heart of hearts I'm not going to play them all.
Yeah, but think of it more as a collector move, and go to Play Asia and get the Japanese. Well, it's still
they're all
American.
they're digital on the Switch. The whole collection is digital, so
yeah, you can do that, but it's a physical edition.
I don't care about physical. I mean, as soon as I find out the next Switch is backwards compatible with this Switch, I'm probably getting rid of all of my physical copies except for my Zelda games, and maybe the Xenoblade ones.
Yeah, you should probably keep those.
I just don't care. I'm like, the best thing that ever happened to me was getting rid of all my, not really getting rid of, more of melting. But when my apartment caught on fire in 2010 and I lost a lot of physical games, like, turning to digital was just really nice. Anyways, that's a conversation for a different day. So let's talk about some of these characters, I guess. How do we want to approach characters? Mario is kind of like he's kind of irrelevant in this entire game, except for everybody's like, "You're the Mario," and then he goes like this. Like,
yeah.
Okay. Well,
it's almost like he's being made a caricature of himself, because everyone's like, "Let me see you jump. Prove that you're Mario. Just jump." And I'm like, A button? Then they lose their mind. So in one way, it's entertaining. He's a silent protagonist, and yeah, you're right. It's almost like he's just kind of been swept up into the situation, and like when something goes wrong, like, well, you're Mario. Go to it. It didn't, and I'm okay with that. But you're right. He definitely wasn't leading the charge, so to speak. He didn't have that primary sense of purpose.
I almost wonder if this was meant to be another game and Nintendo went to Square and said, "Hey, can we buy this exclusively from you because we know PlayStation is out and we want to make this a Super Nintendo exclusive. Can we pay for it and you just put Mario in it or something?"
I don't know. I think this was a true partnership. Like, I feel like this was discussed ahead of time and planned.
Yeah.
Because Square and Nintendo did have that good relationship back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Mario, they kept with the silent protagonist character. In fact, every single one of the Mario RPGs, he doesn't talk. Like, you always have to have a navigator character who kind of is the mouthpiece for them. And in this case, the navigator was Malo.
Yeah, because he gets introduced pretty early.
Yeah. I was kind of shocked Luigi wasn't in this game. Speaking of,
I mean, technically he was at the very end.
Well, yeah, well,
he was the parade conductor.
Sure. Yeah.
And he had one. He did have one bit of dialogue too. If you found his star in Star Hill, you found his wish.
Rip. You can definitely see though, like, it's speaking of Mario and Luigi, man, that this game also made me want new Mario and Luigi games, or at least ports of the DS and 3DS ones, because those games are so good, and they are very clearly the correct lineage from this game, right? I know a lot of people point to Paper Mario as well a little bit, but like, especially the N64 one, but man, this game has Mario and Luigi written all over it.
And they both have their both of the side stories have, or spin-offs have their own little touch to it. But yeah, this was definitely the original where all the ideas came from.
Yeah. Man, Mario and Luigi, so good. Everybody go play those if you can. If you can find them. I think one of them is on Nintendo Switch Online, the Game Boy Advance one. Totally worth it. Totally worth it. Speaking of navigators, I guess I didn't have a good one. Malo. Pat, tell me about Malo's story in detail. Give me the great
you the
big
dirties.
detail.
All right, Malo, when you first meet him, is a little tadpole who went shopping for his grandfather, but then got his coin stolen and therefore could not buy what his grandfather needed. Hopefully, you guys went back to the shop and you bought it.
Mm-hmm.
Bought what?
Corey.
Bought what? The what?
The gift that Malo went
not.
to. My gosh, Corey.
I did not.
Rude.
Yeah, I know.
You let the grandfather depress then.
That's fine.
Okay. So after
he revealed Malo wasn't a tadpole, so he didn't get a gift. He was like, "Get out of my face. You're not real. Leave."
Well, had you given him, had you gone back to the shop, the shopkeeper would have given you a cricket pie where there you could console the grandfather when he finally reveals that Malo is not, in fact, a tadpole, but, he is somewhere of some other creature that he does not reveal, which we find out later is Nimbus. But yeah, you can give him the cricket pie, and then the grandfather's like, "Oh, take the staff with you," and it gives Malo his first weapon, and therefore makes him a little more powerful. But Malo actually is a very cool character. He's your first healer. 2, he has the typical Final Fantasy Analyze ability, which reveals all your enemy stats and weaknesses, as well as if you hit the button at the right time, a little thought that pops up in the enemy's head. Some of them are funny, some of them are like, eh. But he also has the first area attack as well, which makes him very much a boon in battle.
Yes.
In the beginning. His Thunderbolt is extremely OP.
Yes.
Right then. But later you find out towards the end that he is part of a Cloud people. In fact, he is the Lost Prince of the Cloud people, who is currently kind of being overthrown by this lady with the giant parrot on her head.
Valentina.
Valentina, who wants to kind of become queen.
Man, speaking of weird-looking characters, she was one weird-looking lady. Whew.
Yes, she was. And that's kind of the gist of Malo. He is the Lost Prince of the Nimbus Kingdom, which is pretty much one of the last civilizations that you run into in the game.
Yeah, I appreciate the creativity. I'll admit, I was really off-put by just the character design because I didn't know what to make out of it. Malo, marshmallow, but then he also looks like a cupcake, and he looks like a cloud, but he's a tadpole. So I was a little confused for a while, but you nailed it on the head. I do like his personality. He's your, very childlike, very innocent, very positive. So I really enjoyed him being alongside me. And yeah, in the beginning especially, I really enjoyed his area of effect attacks and the thought peak.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Also, whenever he cries, he tends to summon a rainstorm.
Ooh, man, imagine having that power.
Yep.
What do you think of Malo, Corey?
I think he's a big dork and didn't care for Malo at all. I could have cared less about that storyline, to be honest with you. I knew, okay, well, once they revealed he wasn't a tadpole or anything, I'm like, all right, well, his journey is clearly we're gonna end up in Cloudland at some point, right? And he's gonna find his mom and his real parents, and they're gonna be like, our son has returned. And I didn't know he was gonna be.
They were more excited about Mario than they were about their son, to be honest.
I know,
or at least the dad was.
Yeah.
Can I have your autograph? Can I have your autograph?
Yeah, it had this almost weird reverse Rapunzel type thing going on here where returning home, but instead of being excited and recognizing there's like the character, they were just like, "Oh, that's nice. You're back. Thanks for coming home." But your friend Mario over here, he's the best. He's man.
Truth be told, we didn't see the actual reunion, which we figured, had a rainstorm, so it was a happy one. So maybe that's why they just kind of focused on Mario.
Yeah. So that, I mean, Malo, whatever. I didn't use Malo at all throughout the game, unless except at the very beginning when you kind of have to. But once Bowser was introduced to the party, I was Bowser and Gino and Mario almost the whole way, and then swap Peach in and out when I needed to. But Malo can just go float away, I guess.
Bowser did have the next area attack spell, which was pretty awesome. So
I love Bowser. He had such a great personality in that game. I don't know if you guys want to lead off, and then I can continue.
Just go. You're already going.
Yep.
Oh, she's talking. Okay.
Yes, Bowser, like this, like I mentioned in the beginning, this is the first game where Bowser actually had a personality, and you saw his softer side where it was like, I can't lose face because this is who I am, but I need to help Mario, or at least trick him to helping me get back my castle, because now Bowser has been humiliated by being kicked out of his own house. He did not like that at all. And then all his troops ran away because of Smithy's armies is numerous.
Yeah. I like being one of Bowser's minions, because you have to promise him to be a minion, and which is hilarious, because when he finally confronts you about it, like, at least in my playthrough, not the cutscene, but like the little scene that plays out, is like Gino and Mario were like laughing. We're like, "Ha, no, we're not." I think that was in the when you go through the portal to the weapons land, or whatever it's called, weapons.
Yeah, it's like
world.
You get the castle, and he's like, "I'm done. I don't need, you guys need to stay here and help me rebuild." And they're like, "Well, we could do that, but this is technically a portal, and it's good to spawn more weapon people."
Yeah. So
then he starts crying.
Yeah, that was really funny. I just think Bowser is just like a big dumb idiot, and it's fun. He's so fun because he's like, he never knows, like, plus, like, since the Mario movie, like, all I can think about is Jack Black's personality in Bowser anytime I see him now. So, like, it's extra funny.
It's amazing how well they casted him on that.
I know. Remember when everybody like rolled their eyes, or like, Jack Black as Bowser, and then he ended up being like the best part of the entire movie by far, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Oh man, go figure. My son pulled me away like during one of my favorite characters. So I'm pretty sure you said all that's been said, but I love that they really, when I say fleshed out, it's not like he had a very complex personality, but
Bowser's very deep.
It's for the game, he's probably one of the deepest. He always is trying to give off this impression that he's the big bad, and he's just sometimes you can see him kind of breaking from his character, so to speak, or from his outer shell. So, and I found that wicked endearing.
What's super endearing is, if you talk to some of the people in Monster Town, is just how much Bowser actually cared about his minions as well. Like, you run into the Goomba, and the Goomba's like, "I'm sorry I ran away. I got scared, but then I built a life here, and look at this. I have kids." And, Bowser's like, "You know what? It's okay. You're dismissed from your post."
Yeah, that was actually kind of touching. I was like, "Huh, all right, good. We're not just going the, roar, I'm a bad guy, then that's it." So, and for my quote, I guess, strategy, if you want to call it a strategy, he was in my party almost every single time since he joined, and I would occasionally swap him out with Peach.
Yeah, he was a power hitter, and again, he had the second area attack of the game, which is with his fright, which not only hit bad guys, but would also terrify them, which would cause bad guys to lose their kind of lose strength in their attack. So it was helpful.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, let's move on to Gino. We talked a lot about Gino already and how the game kind of revolves around, if you played the original and know this, the Legend of the Seven Stars Pat brought up earlier, like the game clearly revolves around Gino. Like in my opinion, the game clearly revolves around Gino and the Seven Stars, and that how that all works. What did you all think of Gino's story? Stephanie, I'm going your way first because
he's
you think he's creepy, so maybe,
it's not his fault. It's totally not his fault. It's only based off of my previous fear of those kind of wood dolls and stuff. But in general, he had one of the better of the three storylines. I guess I feel kind of neutral because I didn't really use him and seemed like a nice character, and I feel really bad, but I don't have much to add. So I'm glad you started with me. Kept it nice and short.
No, he definitely was the main character of the plot. The whole story, like the story is actually told, like the main plot is told by him about how when Smithy came crashing down into the world, he broke through the Star Road, or not the Star Road. Yeah, it is the Star Road, which then split into 7 pieces, and wishes will be completely staked. Like the stars weren't necessarily what Smithy was after. It just was a consequence of his actions. And then, like, you need to get these stars back so that wishes can finally be granted again. But Smithy also kind of realized that the stars had power and started seeking them himself. So the whole journey is to find the 7 stars so that you can repair the Star Road.
Star Road. Sorry, got excited. Yeah, I actually think Gino might be my favorite character in the game. Just because I just found the story the most interesting. Not that there's much story, again, like we said, but that was the most intriguing part of like the Pinocchio style story of this puppet coming to life to, do the quest and make sure everything is right, and then leaves. Like the little burst flies out of the chest of Gino and flies away, and then you see the little kind of stardust kind of fly around Mario and Peach in the cutscenes at the end, and it's kind of sad when Gino leaves, because I feel like Gino was one of the only characters that I kind of built a relationship with over the course of the 16 or 17 hours or so that I put into the game, and was definitely one of my favorite characters in my party in terms of battling. So I don't know. Gino was cool. I am kind of shocked there's no like amiibo line for these characters. I mean, obviously Mario and Peach and Bowser all have them, but like they could have been some sort of like 3-pack for.
Can you imagine the outcry if you had a Gino amiibo but no Gino in Smash?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but there's a Gino costume in Smash, right? So
not enough.
No, Gino needs to be in Smash. In fact, he needs to be the main character in the next one.
Super Gino Brothers. All 78 characters have a Gino theme to them.
Gino and Kirby can get together and they can save the universe again.
Oh no.
With Kid Icarus.
Kirby. By the way, side tangent, did you see Nintendo's hiring for a new Kirby project, or HAL Labs is hiring for a new Kirby project?
We do for it.
some sort of sequel to the Forgotten Land.
Okay.
Nice.
So that was fun. And then what other characters do we need to talk about here?
I mean, we got the
Peach.
yeah.
Peach. Yeah. Peach. Cool. Peach joins your party as your healer. Very 90s
and a powerful attacker.
portrayal of a woman of her emotions make her more powerful. Shocking.
Yeah, I had mentioned that on I think it was the Boss Rush podcast.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna scream and shout at the top of my lungs about feminism. It's just kind of like, oh, figures the healer of the pack is a woman. Because I feel like maybe up until more recent years, it's always the female that's the healer. I'm like, why can't I be the barbarian, the fighter? And then finally, when I love this attack, by the way, the bomb one, it's an amazing attack. Then it's the description, like, why did you have to make it this description? It's like, don't make me angry. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I know.
Ooh.
Especially in a remake, like you would have thought that maybe Treehouse would have had the sensibility to like change it. You know, I mean, I get they want to stay faithful to the original, but there's some things you could do to like that might set some people off.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's like blatantly offensive, but it definitely showed like it's outdated. And I'm like, if a new game were like a brand new game were to come out today with that, oh, bless you.
Yeah. Good luck with that. Next game that has that in it.
But overall, I didn't like feel anything exceptional for Peach. I'm like, cool, she's a playable character. Cool, everyone's trying to marry her again. Like whatever.
Yeah. Very 90s Nintendo. Very Mario. Very
90s. They still did it back in the 2000s with Super Princess Peach.
So what? Question. Is this the first time they referenced Peach as Peach?
No, she was Toadstool in the game. Peach, I think the very first game we actually had Peach as Peach was
64.
64 when she signs the letter as Peach.
Right. Okay. Did they change that for this game, or did I just not pay attention?
She was Peach in this game.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering if that was like, you know. Okay. Let's see. What else do we need to discuss here about this game? Mechanic wise, pretty simple. There's really not a lot. I'm kind of shocked at how not story heavy this was. I mean, I wasn't expecting like a deep, you know, meaningful story, but like there was really no real story to kind of talk about beyond what we've already talked about.
Right. Yeah. I don't think I have anything more to address as far as story is concerned. I think, if anything, if we wanted to delve into it a little bit, kind of, sort of, is just overall combat. Like, what items did you use, if any? Did you guys take advantage of clothing, weapons, stuff like that?
What I would actually wanted to ask, what was possibly your favorite boss fights? Because the neat thing about or at least for most of them, is they kind of had a small gimmick to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say gimmick, because I'm trying to look up his names. Bowyer. It's a bow, and as freaky deaky as that guy looks, he is a bow and arrow with spooky eyeballs, crazy eyes actually. But he has this googly eyes. He has this mechanic where it has like the 3 different button controls that you use. I think it's like A, B, X. So every couple turns, he'll shoot an arrow and it'll land on one of those buttons. And when it does, your team cannot utilize that button and that mechanic. So he might shoot the A button and you can't do your regular attack. So you can only use an item or a special. I really loved it. It wasn't like it was super challenging and I couldn't figure it out, but I appreciated that little bit of challenge it could give me. So I love Boyer from the mechanic standpoint. Just from a fun standpoint, I like the pirate shark. What was his name again?
Johnny.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. How could I forget? He was just my favorite just by spirit and entertainment value, because afterwards it's almost like you gained his respect and he treats you like an equal. So I just got a good chuckle out of it.
Yeah. I want to shout out the Axum Rangers. They weren't very. That boss wasn't like that fight wasn't very like. I thought it was going to be way more challenging than it actually was. But the fact that there were so many of them on screen with the kind of like transformer looking robot guy, right, shooting lasers at you was like, oh, okay, cool.
Please tell me they were intentionally kind of like nodding towards the Power Rangers, or like, well, the Power Rangers were kind of a copy from a Japanese show, I believe, too, right?
Yeah.
Fully intentional that they were, the super villains of evil or whatever.
Yeah.
Good call out, dude.
So a shout out to them, but I also really I'm trying to think of the name, the Clay Morton, which was like one of the I guess you would say stranger kind of bosses. It was kind of interesting. Definitely like busted out Malo for that with the thunder attacks, right? Like I feel like that was really one of the only reasons to use Malo was, to do that. So that was interesting. Also the sword boss where you had to like hit the eye. I forget what the sword's name was, but you had to hit the eyes to make.
I think it's Exor.
The hilt, Exor, to make the hilt kind of vulnerable, but also you had to watch the mouth because the mouth was like shoot water attacks at you that were very painful. So shout out to the Exor, the sword.
I really liked the final fight. I enjoyed fighting Smithy, even his more creepier form.
A lot of swapping.
Thank you. Yeah. Creepy, like the second phase. No, I loved the fight. I agree with you, but that second one, I was like, yee.
The pumpkin head, like the main head, was like really creepy. Like in the second phase.
Yep.
And then like he would just hit it with a hammer, and then it would like turn into a tank, and then like have this creepy guy inside of a box, right? And then like, oh well, now there's this other thing sitting on top of his head. It looked like a stacked kind of monster looking thing on his head. I'm like, what is going on with this guy?
Yep. He had 4 different heads. He had his tank head, which was his physical attack. He had his mage head, which was his magic. He had the bunker head, which was his defense. And he also had the item box, which usually caused some sort of status attack on you. But he also had his body as well, and so one of the things you wanted to do was to take out his body. Otherwise, that kind of gave him a second attack on your team.
Yeah. So, I mean, the boss fights were. I appreciate that they tried to at least challenge the combat system a little bit, because like the smaller enemies, at least in my experience, because I had overpowered myself because that's how I like to play RPGs, to just just to brute force my way through things. Definitely no challenge in terms of fighting little minion characters. And then like the undead characters were so easy if you had the pure water, right? Because you just throw the pure water at them and they would die instantly, like the dry bones or the ghosts or whatever. So that was a really simple mechanic to learn. But yeah, I just I really appreciated the boss fights, in particular the later ones. So yeah. I also like the first phase of Smithy. We didn't really talk about it, but like he had the forge thing that you had to like shut the forge thing down so he wouldn't make metal versions of enemies that would attack you, mostly the shy guys that jumped on the swords. So that was an interesting thing. I like when battles force you to think about different things to an extent, not all the time, but to an extent, to kind of alter the course of battle.
You know what? Even the very first boss, Bowser, had that element to him too. Remember, you couldn't beat Bowser. You had to beat his chandelier.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Bowser. All right. So, I mean, what else do we need to talk? Do we want to talk about any of the mini games? I didn't really do a lot of them. I don't know if you guys did the mini games at all.
I did the Yoshi race once. I think I did the tadpole music one once.
Mm-hmm.
I did the river game the one time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah.
How come we never seen Boshi come back in any form?
Because they suck.
Boshi did not suck. He was the cool one with the glasses. And the fastest. That's right.
The punk.
It's
He owned that race.
We need the colored Yoshis to have different personalities.
Yeah.
Man, imagine like a kid show that starred Yoshi, but all the Yoshis who had different personalities, like Paw Patrol or like Spidey and his amazing friends.
It's awesome.
My son, I'm just naming shows that my son watches. It'd be amazing.
For me, that Deep Blue one was always like from like the power hitter, just because that was the one that always hit the castle levels in the first Yoshi game.
Yeah. I did appreciate how
again.
Yoshi's Island. We should, man. I would say we should do a book club on that, but there's no story there either. And I'm like, the thing is though, like after playing this game, like I'm really trying to rethink book club of like, oh, maybe we should avoid Nintendo games for the most part. Not necessarily. I mean, like Zelda, yeah, okay, that's fine. Like a Metroid Prime would probably be a cool one to do, but like doing something like it's really hard to talk about a story in a game specifically in a show that's kind of designed around that, almost not exclusively designed around the story, but stories are a major part of book club, right? And it's like really hard to talk about a game with light story. And it's really forced me to maybe, hey, which is like, one of the things that is up for voting for April is Tekken 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, well, yes, fighting game stories have evolved. What does Tekken's 1 through 7 story look like? How do you catch up? Is there like a restart point? Is there a good point to jump on?
I feel like if Tekken wins, you would almost have to attack the entire lore.
Yeah.
With Tekken. Especially the family and the demon gene.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Tekken except for one guy throws a lot of people into volcanoes.
It's actually a family that throws each other into the volcanoes.
Well. Okay, then.
It starts out with the grandpa throwing his son into the volcano to see if he will survive with this one gene. And then the son gets his revenge and throws the grandfather in the volcano. And then, he finds out he has a son and he doesn't want to share power, so he throws him in a volcano. And then, of course, I think that son eventually throws his dad into the volcano. And there's a lot of... No, it's several cliffs. Several cliffs, and then they start elevating it from cliffs to volcanoes.
I would just go live in the middle of the flattest part of the United States. Be like, ha, can't get me.
Mm-hmm. And then you got the Super Smash Brothers trailer where the Jin tosses Kirby off the cliff, and then Kirby just kind of flies right back up.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. Kirby gets away with everything just because he can eat and fly.
Yep. Good old Kirbo.
Man.
Love those abilities to eat whatever and fly. That's not bad.
Yeah.
I still can't believe the entire premise of Squeak Squad was Kirby chasing after the rat robbers because they stole his piece of strawberry shortcake.
Jeez.
That was the whole damn plot, and somehow he saves the world based on them stealing his cake.
It's Kirby, man.
I know.
Kirby. All right. Well, any final thoughts on Super Mario RPG? Anything you want to tell people who may have listened to this conversation and didn't play it? Which Sure, you can do that. Any kind of words of wisdom or final thoughts or rankings or reviewing or whatever elevator pitch?
Play it to experience history.
I agree. If anyone wants to have the basics of what are the few games in past decades that are a must play, like must stop by and visit, this is one of them. Just be mindful, it was an RPG made in the 90s, so it will be simplistic. So just sit back and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. I would also say, like, if you have recently gotten into stuff like Paper Mario, like I know 1,000 Year Door is coming out soon, or if you've played the N64 one on NSO, or if you're into the Mario and Luigi games, and you want to know where those games kind of came from, this is that kind of tip of the pyramid type thing, right? Like this is where those games kind of spawned from, and you can definitely see the lineage there. I
think it was like one of the first, at least for me, it was one of the first games I played that introduced the button prompt. Or it's almost like the Godfather of the QuickTime. Well, no, that's what you call it, Dragon's Lair. But in terms of like hitting the button at the right time for additional power or additional defense, this is the first one I've ever remember, and other games have since duplicated that concept. Yeah.
Definitely a lot of innovations that other games kind of evolved later, right?
So. You know what I don't recommend doing? Don't go from an RPG like Baldur's Gate 3 straight to Super Mario RPG. It will spoil your experience.
Yeah, also don't go from something like Prince of Persia Lost Crown, which just came out at the time of this recording, to Mario RPG. Make sure you're in the mindset to play a simple, slow-paced, turn-based JRPG, and you will find this game charming. It is beautiful. The worlds are unique. I think
catchy music,
super catchy music.
It's literally just like for
yeah. Every time you level up, the dance moves. The dance moves when you level up and the characters dance for you. That's fun. So that's my final thought of the game. So that was a quick one. Little over an hour. The next video game book club is Uncharted: Drake's Fortune for the PlayStation 3. I will be playing the PlayStation 4 version from the Nathan Drake collection on my PlayStation 5. But if you want to play along, yeah, if it works, I'll have it back by then. It's only so I actually did a thing today where I was calculating time to beat games so I could add shorter games to book club voting lists, and the first Uncharted game is less than 8 hours if you mainline.
Really?
Yeah,
it's not that long.
No, the second one is, or the second one is the longest, or well, the fourth one is the longest, but out of the original trilogy, the second one's the longest at like 11 and a half hours. So
I'm like, yeah, the fourth one's way longer.
Yeah. And as of this recording, it seems like Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is going to be our April game, which is also a 6 to 8 hour game, depending on if you want 100% it or not. Which is one of my favorite games of all time. So if you want to play along with those, you can. Both of those games are on PlayStation Plus Extra, and Hellblade is also on Game Pass.
Game Pass, yeah.
It's also $3 on Steam. If you are a patron, it's $3 on Steam right now.
And patrons, we're formulating and finalizing the voting for April.
April.
But if you have ideas, in advance of some suggestions you want to throw out to put into a poll for future months, please do it. Please do so.
Comment on the current run of voting also, because like there are places for comments. You can't write in a vote like you can on like a Google survey or something, but you can comment on the posts. And so I will take anything that's commented on the posts, I will take into consideration for the following month. And then, like this month we have 8 choice, or for April right now, we have 8 choices so far. I thought about keeping it at like 5, but if there are games people want us to play, sure, add them and we'll throw it on the list. So do that. And I think that's gonna wrap it up. I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening to this episode of Boss Rush Video Game Book Club, part of the Boss Rush podcast and the Boss Rush Network. If you enjoy this discussion, please subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast application. Leave us a nice rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen, and that's applicable. You can get this show 1 month early by supporting us on Patreon at any tier, and voting rights at the $5 or above tier, with other perks as well. You can also, and that's at patreon.com/Boss Rush Network. You can also check out all of our content, news, reviews, editorials, etc. on our website at bossrush.net, where Stephanie and David do a great job of curating all that stuff. Join the Discord.
Try to.
Follow us on social media at Boss Rush Network. Stephanie, Pat, thank you for your time tonight, as always.
Yeah, thank you for the discussion. It was fun. And thank you for everyone listening along our journey here with Mario.
Yeah. And we will see you next month with Nathan Drake, Sully, Elena, and all that. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, we love you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
If you want to see how you can become a Patreon producer, head on over to patreon.com/Boss Rush Network. The Patreon producers for this month are Adriel Munger, Celeste Roberts, Christian S., Sana Dirrig, Francisco Santillan, and Todd Oxtra. Thanks for your continued support of the Boss Rush Network and our family of podcasts.